everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So today I've decided to start a new series where I kind of take my favorite Disney movies. I'm just gonna put it out there. I am a Disney adult and I am unapologetic about it. I don't give a fuck. So I decided that I'm gonna start a new series where I do townhomes, where it is heroes versus villains. So let's dive in. So recently I went to Disney World with my sister. We have been going there since we were little kids, and we have truly always just loved being in the parks. And there's just something so nostalgic about it for us where, we kind of grew up going all the time. So we have a lot of sentimental memories with Disney World. And, my sister even took her first steps in the parks. So literally Magic Kingdom, behind the castle, she got up out of her stroller and took her first steps. So Disney World has a really special place in our heart. Today, I am building two townhomes, heroes versus villains, and I am doing one of my absolute favorite Disney movies of all time, Peter Pan. So we are building one townhome that's Peter Pan themed and one townhome that is Captain Hook. So I actually built this before I went to Disney with the intentions of posting it like that week, but things got a little hectic and here we are. So I'm back from Disney. I am ready to take on this build and talk about it. So I'm very excited. I put a lot of details from the movie in each of the builds. I loved kind of bringing the characters to life in a new way that felt kind of fresh and new. Obviously, the movie is super old and it's from the 50s. One of my absolute favorite Disney rides, too, is Peter Pan's Flight. I love that ride so much. It seems like it's a fan favorite because every time there's always the longest line possible, but as it should. It's such a great ride, and I love Disney's dark rides and just kind of going through the films and bringing them to life. That, to me, is just something that is incredible, and that's like the one thing I love about Disney, is them bringing to life, our favorite movies that we grew up watching. So in the Peter Pan townhome, I went with obviously a lot of green. That is his staple color. And I actually sprinkled in a little bit of yellow to kind of mimic like that pixie dust sort of vibe. And I placed 9 million chairs in the living room and like little poofs and little ottomans to have enough spots for all of the Lost Boys. Like, to me, this movie is honestly just like so nostalgic, and it was literally one of my favorite things growing up. I always loved Peter Pan, and one of my first dolls I ever owned actually was a Peter Pan doll when I was a kid. And when I tell you I brought that thing everywhere, I was obsessed. I couldn't get enough, and I would just literally would bring him wherever I went. Like, he was like my little emotional support doll. I don't know, there was just something so special about Peter Pan to me as a kid, and I just have like always just grown up loving it, and it's just one of my favorite comfort movies at this point. Like, if I'm ever in a bad mood or if I'm ever feeling down, I always put this movie on and it always makes me feel better. So in the build, I tried to go for more of like a whimsical vibe. Obviously, Neverland is super whimsical and has a lot of foliage and a lot of, there's a lot of woods around and a lot of trees. And I really tried to bring in the childlike element here. So on this half of the house, there's a bunch of little toys, a bunch of makeshift items. So in Growing Together, one of my favorite things that they did was a lot of these decorative items that looks like a child made it. So I placed a lot of those everywhere. I put board games and a lot of toy chests and a lot of different like toy items to kind of represent that sort of, childlike essence that Peter Pan, obviously has. So you're going to see a lot of toy boxes everywhere. Also, in the front of the living room, I put in a little typewriter desk with a floral chair. I just felt like that really captured the essence of, Peter Pan and Tinkerbell and the entire vibe of the movie. So that was really fun to put in. I put in like some night lights and the parent board. I went pretty hard, I'm gonna be honest, on the decor in this house. I just wanted to make it feel like a child lived here. And obviously it's just a bunch of children that live in this house. So there's no bedrooms. which we will get into that when we move upstairs. But for now, we are cluttering up the downstairs living room. I put the friendship bracelets from growing together in there, and I'm just adding in every single item that a kid would want in The Sims 4. So, you know, we have hopscotch, we have the marbles, we have a swing set, we have a movie screen, we have a toddler pool, we have the tree house. Like, I put everything in here. Obviously putting in the ship. There's like a ship playset that goes outside, so I obviously had to put that out there. I loved putting in the puppet show from Parenthood. I thought that was so fun, and I felt like the Lost Boys and Peter would love to do that. And I kind of just made like a communal bathroom. So I really wanted this to feel like it was more so like just some children living here. Like, it wasn't decorated for like a family in mind. It was fully decorated with just children in mind and keeping that childlike essence alive. And everything is green. Literally everything. I loved playing around with the different styles of green as well. I put in some toddler items as well, because some of the Lost Boys are a little bit younger than the rest of the children are. But now you'll see that we are getting into the upstairs, which I decided to just place a bunch of bunk beds. I felt like this really captured the vibe, obviously, and it felt more like a summer camp. Like, I really wanted the house to feel like it was just a bunch of kids coming to live here in a summer camp, and they're having the time of their lives. So you'll see I put at least one bunk bed for each of the Lost Boys, and then Peter Pan actually has his own bed because he is obviously the icon of the film, and the whole movie is based around him. So he gets his own spot, and I love the way that this turned out. I really feel like the essence of Peter Pan was captured, like down to the minor details of like the lamps that I chose. Like, I really tried my hardest to get the vibe of who Peter was and what the movie is, and really just like bringing the movie to life. And these chests from, I believe it's Werewolves, they are the perfect color scheme. The brown matched with that green, that is like legitimately perfect for Peter Pan. Like, that is his color scheme. And then you'll see around the puppet, I don't know what to call it. Like, what is it? Like a puppet? I want to call it a machine, but it's not a puppet machine. Whatever. So next to the puppet show, I ended up putting a bunch of I put like a couple little stools, so that way when they're putting on a show, the Lost Boys can sit around and watch. So I love the way that this turned out, and I put in from the little campers kit, I put in the outdoor like screen. It's just a bed sheet that plays TV, and it has fairy lights around it, and I felt like that was perfect for the vibes. So I put that in here as well as like their main TV upstairs, and I figured like all the little kids can all just like hang out around the TV and watch, and that's where I'm placing some pillows from the little campers kit. That little campers kit came in clutch. That was absolutely perfect vibes for this build. And I put in a games table for them. And yeah, just really diving into the whimsy of the movie and really bringing it to life. So now I am finding some pieces that I felt fit perfectly, and so I had the idea to turn Captain Hook's home, like the rooftop, into a ship. Listen, I know it's extra. I know it really is, but it was perfect for the vibes, and it is fully functional. So I'm very excited about that. But now going back into the Peter Pan side of the build, I'm just cluttering up as much as I possibly can. I felt like obviously they're children, like they're gonna be messy. They're not gonna be clean. They're not gonna cook. They're not gonna deal with any of that stuff. So in the kitchen, I decided to put a bunch of cobwebs because I was like, they're children. Like they're literally not cooking, but for it to be fully functional, you need a kitchen. So I decided to make the kitchen look super grungy and run down. Like they just didn't take care of it. They don't cook. They only order out. They get pizza every night. Like that is what they do. So in my mind, this is what the kitchen should look like. It should look messy and cobwebs everywhere. They don't clean. Like what kid do you know cleans? I'm 25 and I still don't clean. So I clean, but not like in depth. you know? I'm not like taking everything off the shelves and dusting every day, which might sound like I'm dirty, but I promise I'm not. So anyway, going back to the build and the messiness of that. So I took the Parenthood board and put that in here. Like there was supposed to be like a curfew set or something like that. I love using this in my everyday gameplay when I have children. And I put cobwebs over it and I put like little grunge marks on it. Like it hasn't been touched in decades. And I just felt like that was perfect for the vibes of the house. So I absolutely adore the way that this turned out and all the clutter that was placed around. So for the windows and doors and stuff like that, I used a lot of Strangerville. The vibes of that pack is so bizarre to me. A lot of mixed feelings. I love the build buy items. Like I really do. And I think that their windows and doors are actually perfect. So I felt like that kind of captured the essence a little bit of, you know, like the England side of the film where the Darlings lived. So I really tried to capture that essence in that aspect of it. And I feel like the townhomes as well, like even from the outside, it kind of looks like a London townhome. So that was super exciting for me to place into this. So now I am starting to work a little bit on the backyard. I went crazy. I decided that I wanted to add in like, I guess like a pond or like a mini lake in the backyard to represent the Skull Island from the movie. So I tried to manipulate the terrain, and one thing I fucking hate about this game, so you cannot paint the ground when it's risen. That to me feels like an oversight of the Sims team. Like I get it, like they're trying to go for like it's supposed to be dirt, but what if I don't want it to be dirt? What if I want it to be grass? What the fuck? I wanted to put like the cobblestone over it to kind of blend in a little bit as like it was kind of like a mountain. To me, that was such an oversight. So I dove into debug and I figured it out. But now I'm placing in, I believe it's in Cottage Living. They have these little squares. You'll see it right here. There's a crocodile. So they have these little squares and they're just visual effects in the game. So when you're playing here, you'll see a crocodile floating in the water. Obviously, TikTok croc for Captain Hook. And that's why I placed it on his side because, you know, it fit the vibes perfectly. I'm just like so happy with how it turned out and like adding all of the little details. It just feels so personal and really bringing to life one of my absolute favorite movies and bringing it into The Sims. It was such a fun thing to do. So when you're playing in the game, the crocodile will show up and I think that's so funny. So always do it for the bit. I'm always doing things for the bit, and committing to the bit is absolutely what I'm here for. So I placed this little boat, that was from Debug. And then I found this cave from Werewolves and I was like, wait a second, this fits perfectly. Then I took the crystal, like the skull crystal from Crystal Creations, enlarged it so much, and it turned into the Skull Mountain from the movie. And to me, that was my favorite part of the entire build. I was like, shit, I have this made. I figured it out. I'm so happy. So the townhomes are actually connected by one room. So this is where Tinkerbell basically resides. Now, there's no fairies in the game, but I found a lantern in Debug that looks like foggy almost, so you can't really tell what's inside of it. So I put that in there, and I'm placing now all of these little message in a bottles from My Wedding Stories, and I'm putting them all over the place, all over the desk. This is technically Captain Hook's desk, and he has no idea that Peter Pan has access to it. The kids can kind of go in and start playing little pranks. In For Rent, you can obviously specify like which room goes to which house. So I decided that I was going to make this like a shared space. And I just placed like a tiny little treasure chest in the bottom of the pond. I thought that was really fun. I loved putting in like those little nods and a bunch of like little Easter eggs to the movie in here. And now I am working on the rooftop a little bit more. And I am so obsessed with how this turned out. It literally looks like a ship. And thank you, Get Famous, for delivering this, because in that career, there is a movie that you can go film where you're a pirate, and that's where all of these props kind of came from. And I just felt, perfect for the vibes and really captured Captain Hook's essence, obviously, because he's a captain. So in this house, I decided to make it a 2-bedroom house, one that is super large, and that's obviously for Captain Hook, and one that is much tinier for Mr. Smee. So that was really fun to play into and bring it to life. So there's like a little tiny hallway that leads to the office space, and you'll see over here now I'm laying out Smee's room, and I'm making Captain Hook's room actually gigantic, as it should be. Like, he's the icon, so I don't care what anyone says. I am a true lover of the villains. I love Disney villains so much. I think they are so spicy and so fun, and I love a good villain. I love rooting for a villain. So now I kind of went with like the plank wood from Get Famous as the flooring, to really play into the fact that like this was supposed to represent like a ship. And I went with a lot of like really regal items for Captain Hook. Obviously he's the captain, he runs this ship, and that was something that I just really wanted to play into and make sure that it was brought to life. And yeah, so I'm using a lot of the ship props in here. So actually the banister up at the top of the stairs is a ship prop from Get Famous. And now I'm placing items in Smee's room, and this poor man has the rundown furniture. Listen, I gave him the worst of the worst furniture, and I'm sorry about it, but that's what Captain Hook would have done. That's literally what he would have given him. So I am now going back into Captain Hook's space, and I felt like this painting kind of represented him as like a younger man. So obviously in the movie, he's a little bit older. So I felt like this kind of represented him when he was younger. It was just so fun to play into this and really just bring it all to life. And I'm trying to pick a bed for Smee that kind of matches his color scheme, which is obviously red and blue with like a hint of brown. So that was what I was just bringing that to life. A lot of ship items and a lot of like items about the sea are in this game, surprisingly. Like, I really wasn't expecting there to be much, and there was so much. There was a lot of cats and dogs items, obviously a lot of Get Famous, and I used a decent amount of vampires in here as well, because I felt like it fit that sort of, like, regal vibe that he has. So now I'm just placing anything I find, I'm placing it downstairs, and I'm like, I'm gonna use this somehow, some way, and I'll figure it out. So I'm really just playing into it as much as possible. And now I'm placing a ladder up to the top part of the ship and adding in sort of like a little doorway just to, so that way it is accessible for The Sims. I think it'll be fun to play here and kind of live out the Peter Pan fantasy a little bit. I don't know. I might try to do like a little Let's Play where I play through the movie a little bit. I'm not sure. I feel like that's kind of dramatic, but I feel like it would be fun and just like using this build and bringing it to life. For me, Peter Pan represents such a important, aspect of my childhood. And it really, it was just like one of my favorite things growing up. I really loved Peter Pan. And to me, I think that everyone I feel like is always like, grow up. Like, why do you always go to Disney? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? But I feel like, who gives a fuck? Like, if someone likes it, let them like it. Like, at the end of the day, it does not affect you. It's their life. Let them do whatever they want to do. So whenever someone says something to me about, being a Disney adult, I'm like, am I forcing you to go to Disney? No. That's how I feel about people shitting on other people's interests. Leave them alone. But getting back to the build, so I obviously placed a lot of red and black items because it kind of matches his color scheme. And here I put the longest dining table in the game, and I put like a throne type chair for Captain Hook, and then like a little broken down wooden one for Smee. That poor little man was always getting kicked around, and you know, he deserved better, okay? Now I'm putting in a little bar because, as we know, pirates love their drinking. So I really love the way that it turned out. And yeah, going back to like the sort of like sea ship theme, there's a lot of items in the game that I just like didn't realize was there. That's something I'm super excited about with this series, is that I'm going to be able to find items that I really didn't know were even really in the game. Because honestly, when I play like for myself, I'm usually just playing with a family and I'm just trying to like take care of my children. So I'm super excited to kind of see like what sort of items I'm seeing and what sort of items are a part of the game. So now I'm bringing in a bunch of island living here because their debug is full of sea items. Obviously, you know, the whole theme of the pack. So I was really going hard with the debug in this build. There's so much debug everywhere. I sifted through for hours. And I'm so thankful that I did, because I'm finding these crazy little things. So on his nightstand, I put this little hook. Obviously, it's not what the hook looks like, and it's like a machete sort of thing from Jungle Adventure. Or honestly, I don't even know if it's Jungle Adventure or Island Living. Whatever it may be, I'm just happy that I found it. And I put that there to represent his little hook. And I placed another typewriter here to kind of represent like the sort of 1950s vibe of the movie. The globe bar from, I forget what pack that is. I'm really bad with knowing what stuff comes in what packs. Like the newer stuff, yes, because I feel like it's fresh in my mind, but the older packs, girl, I have no idea. So now I'm doing some of the bathrooms. Smee's bathroom is obviously awful. He gets like the woodworking sort of vibe. He doesn't even have a sink. Like, I didn't even give him a sink. He has a toilet and a bathtub. So this poor man, I feel so bad. This build is full of wood. It's full of wood to kind of represent the ship. So, you know, that's what we're going with here. And yeah, so we're getting a bunch of final touches in now. Like, I'm just kind of trying to clutter up a bit more of the house, but the basics of the home is there. This is me realizing I have no windows placed anywhere. I did not put any windows. So here I am going through and placing windows. I'm doing the same exact windows from the Peter Pan side, but just doing the wood version to match obviously the color scheme of this side of the house. So placing in a bunch of those and just moving stuff around to make sure it fits perfectly. This was one of my favorite things I've ever done, and I'm so excited for this series because I have a lot of ideas, and I am super, super excited about it. So hopefully you guys like it. Obviously, so many options. There's so many villains, you know, so many options for Disney movies to be brought to life in The Sims in builds. So yeah, now I am changing out the lighting and I'm putting in a bunch of chandeliers, trying to dim the lighting a bit more so that way it doesn't feel super bright. I want it to feel a little bit older and dingier, since it is like an old ship sort of vibe in the house. So yeah, I am just doing some last minute touches on the Captain Hook side of the build. So with the final touches, I am now trying to decide. I left off the exterior paint for the last minute because it stresses me out. I was really stressed out thinking about it, so I was like, I'm putting this off until the last possible second. One thing I love about this game, truly, is from the same pack, the wood swatches don't match anything. So that is super fun, but I felt that it was fine for it to be a bit mismatch-y because that's kind of like in the spirit of the movie. It's supposed to be kind of like I always felt like the movie was very like collage-like, you know? Yeah, so I am painting the exterior now for Captain Hook's side of the home, which is obviously a wood. And for Peter Pan's side, I am choosing like a green siding. I think I end up going with a brick, actually. I don't really remember. I think I hated the siding. I think the siding, it looked too plain. So I went more with like a green brick, and that felt more in the vein of like a London townhome. So yeah, I'm just placing in a chimney and getting in a bunch of like exterior pieces to kind of fill out more of the exterior and give it a little bit more visual interest. I, now looking back, kind of wish I did sort of like a porch on the Peter Pan side where it kind of like sets back a little bit. I feel like that would have been super cool to add and use the high school years window for Peter Pan to like kind of go in and out of like he does in the Darling house. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for the build. I am just doing some terrain paint around the place and kind of filling it out a bit more with a little bit of landscaping, and I kept the landscaping very minimal, but I did use this really cool tree from Cottage Living that has like fairy lights all over it, and it felt very Tinkerbell-esque. I wish we had a fairies pack in here because that would have been obviously perfect. When or if that happens, I will probably end up renovating this house a little bit and adding in the fairy items so Tinkerbell can live out her true fantasy here. And then on the Captain Hook side, I was like, we are giving him dead plants because that's perfect. That literally is exactly what he is. So that is the entire build. And I think it's time that we pop back into the game and give you a little tour. All right, so let's tour the builds. First, we'll start off on the Peter Pan side. So this tree felt like it was the absolute perfect vibes. So when you first come in, you immediately enter into the living room, which is honestly just feels like a giant playroom at this point. Like, it is so fun and whimsical in here, and I love the butterflies on the wallpaper, and even over here, like the little fairy sort of sculpture from Growing Together. And yeah, this is the living room for Peter's side, and you'll see that it has like a sort of like a half bath over here. So we come into the kitchen, and I literally love this kitchen so much. I think it came out so cool, and I just love how there's no clutter. There's nothing in it because they don't cook. And it's just grungy and gross, and there's our little parenthood sign and the trash everywhere. Oh, and our bushes are clipping. So I'm gonna just fix that real quick because I hate when that happens. But yeah, so then I put like the swords on the wall and like the little crafted toys that the kids made and all the trash everywhere. So then we head upstairs into the sleeping room, and I love how it turned out. So yeah, we have all of the bunk beds over here, a little bit more of the kids' items that you can play with, and obviously the Lost Boys can just like have their fun and play around all day. And then we have Peter Pan's side right here with the TV covering the window because they don't care about natural light. They're children. And then I just did like a shared communal bathroom with 3 showers, 1 toilet, which was honestly probably not the best choice, but you know, it is what it is. And they have their privacy, and there is the extra half bath downstairs. And then when you come out to the backyard, we have another little table that I didn't put chairs at for some reason. I don't know, that's weird. But we have the marbles, we have more play set items, we have a little splash pad, the swing set and the pirate ship play set, and then the unbuilt. I should have probably built it, but you know, that's a lot of work and it takes a lot of in-sim days to build it. So there's the treehouse, and then we have Skull Mountain with our little crocodile inside. So now it's time to move on over to Captain Hook's side, and I kind of gave him this like London looking mailbox. Candles everywhere. So when you first come in, we have a cute little entryway, and there's this like, I forget what this item's called, the Brindleton Bay model, and it's just like an island. So I kind of figured like that was perfect for him. That's kind of like his treasure map, and he's trying to find out like where he needs to go. It's very compact in this side. I put a lot of items in here. We have the typewriter, and then our tiny, tiny living room. It's just him and Mr. Smee, so that's all they need. And then he has the bar for when his pirate friends come over, and there's a treasure chest, and over here we have the kitchen. I only gave him a tea kettle because again, I feel like he doesn't want a lot of clutter. He's not a clutter bug, so I didn't want to put too much. On his nightside stand though, I did give him some grape nectar, a little lamp, and the hook. and he has this little seating area, and this is where he can put his feet up and rest, and, you know, he has the cursed ripped down painting. So I love how this turned out. And this is him when he was younger. That's what I'm going with. That's my storyline. So we have his bathroom, which is full of vampire stuff, and it really just feels regal. And then over here, we have his little office that has Tinkerbell in it on the desk, and a bunch of letters, and a bunch of the messages in a bottle. Going to the front of the build, we have Smee's room, and oh God, this poor man, he really does get the shit end of the stick here. And I just realized I need to move this over because there's a window there. So there's that, and there's his little tiny bathroom, and then in the hallway, we have a ladder that goes up to the top of the house. That is a pirate ship. So that is our entire build, and that is my little Peter Pan house. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure that you hit that like button down below and subscribe to my channel, and I will definitely be doing more builds like this and bringing to life a lot of my favorite Disney heroes and villains, and who knows, we might even venture off into other movies. So we'll see. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.